Hi, I'm Arati. Over the last couple of months, I have been scrolling through plenty of Derwent Drawing 72 set videos and reviews and swatchings and been extremely tempted to buy them. However, over the last year, I have been lucky enough to have my family gift me since last Christmas acrylic wash colors, Kuretake Gansai, Neo colors, a sketchbook, books, and plenty of other art supplies. So much so that I really don't think I need to buy any more art supplies for quite a while. So instead of immediately going to Derwent's website or Jackson's Art and ordering myself the entire 72 set, I thought I would take stock of the Derwent drawing pencils that I already have and that I use. And today in this video, I will be showing you all the different brands of color pencils and pencils that I have and that I use and what I use them for. That's not to say I will never buy any more Derwent drawing pencils. I just won't buy the full 72 set. In particular, they do have my favorite color. This is Derwent Light Fast in Forest. They do have a new Forest in the 72 set, which I might buy as an individual pencil. So let's get to it. I will show you all the different brands of pencils that I've got. I've popped one of each here in this box, and I'm going to tell you exactly what I use them for, and you can make your own decisions about which pencils you should or shouldn't have. And then I can make a decision about whether I want to buy some more pencils or not. First, a full confession of how many pencils I actually have. Because I keep my pencils mixed up, I actually took each of the brands out and sorted them into these mugs. These are my own mugs that I design and sell on my website. Minor self-promotion there. But what I did was sorted each brand out into its own section. So if you've watched my Posca video before, you know that I have the full set of Posca pencils. Then I have Faber-Castell Polychromos pencils, which were one of the first pencils I bought that were professional. I have some Holbein and Prismacolor, some Apsara pencils and Caran d'Ache Pablo pencils, a bunch of Derwent ones from their Derwent Drawing, their Derwent Light Fast, and their Derwent Chroma Flow sections. So that's already a lot of pencils. And then a few years ago, I got a full 72 set of luminance pencils, which are so many, so numerous that they won't fit in one of my little mugs. I use them a lot. So many have become little tiny stubs, and I really love these pencils. But the Derwent pencils, in particular the drawing pencils, work really well on top of paint, which is why I was really tempted to get a lot of them. When putting pencils in mugs like I just showed you, there is one simple hack that I use that helps keep my pencil points sharp and undamaged. A lot of people might say, why are you putting the pencils in tip down with the pencil points facing the glass? Don't they get damaged? Don't they lose their sharpness? The problem is that with pencils like the Luminance, the nibs or the pencil tops are really small, and especially when I'm wearing my reading glasses to work and not my varifocals, when I look up towards my pencil pots, I can't actually see the colors because my glasses are for close vision while I'm working. So the tops of these are much easier for me to discern the colors. So when I put them in like this, it's easier for me to see the colors as opposed to putting it in like this where there's a smaller point to identify. Now this isn't such a problem with pencils like the Polychromos because the entire body is colored. So this works for them whether they're upside down or points up. But the hack that I use for this is to take a piece of kitchen roll, just one single sheet, fold it in half, and then fold it in half again, so into quarters. Depends on the size of your mug or jug. For the mugs that I've used for my pencils, I've folded it a little bit more because they're a bit more narrow. For this one, I'm just going to put it on top, take my fingers and put it into the glass jar. Now this is why I use a transparent one so you can see what happens at the bottom. It just sort of coats the thing and you can push it down. You don't really lose any space, maybe a millimeter or two. Just push it down so it is lining the bottom of this glass jar. Now, the reason I use a folded piece is to give it a little bit of padding, a little bit of spring. When you use a single layer, it doesn't quite give it that protection. So, if I put these in with a slight thunk, you'll perhaps hear the difference. So if you put it in there, you can't really hear the clink of the glass. They are protected. And I've put them in very gently. It hasn't even left a mark in there. So when I do that, the points of the pencils are protected and I can see the tops of my luminance pencils. Like I said, doesn't really matter with these because the entire body is colored. But since most of my pencils only have the top, the Derwent, the luminance, the Poscas, all of them just have this. So that's why I keep my pencils like this. So don't come at me in the comments. This is why I put my pencils point down. Now, let's get on with this. I've laid out here all of my pencils, from drawing pencils to chinographs to watercolor pencils, which I've not even included in these mugs here, and my proper color pencils. The color pencils are actually what we're going to talk about today and how I use them, but I will give you a quick overview of all of these. While I was taking these out, I also realized I have an entire packet of extras and dupes, just in case I run out of my favorite colors. I mean, perhaps slightly excessive, but I am an illustrator, I am an artist, and I justify it by the fact that I will use all of these and they'll get down to little nubs like this. Now, before people ask me what I do with these little pencils, I do have a pencil extender. This is a metal one, you get all sorts. The pencil fits in the top there. This goes over the top to tighten it, and it becomes a full-size pencil that you can then sharpen and use. Personally, I don't prefer this, so I just use the pencils until they're as short as I can possibly hold, and then I put them in a little drawer marked shorts and leave it at that. But these are available not just in metal, but in plastic and wood and so on. I just have one because I'm not a huge fan of them, but they are available in case you need to use your teeny tiny pencils. Let's start with the Sketcher Non-Photo Blue Pencil by Caran d'Ache. Main point of this is that when you sketch with it and then scan that sketch, the non-photo blue pencil will not scan in. So if I were to sketch with it like this and then sketch over it with another pencil, only that pencil would get scanned in, not this one. So it's really useful for people who are doing preliminary sketches and then doing line work over the top and things like that. I have multiples of these and I've been using them for quite a while. I love them. Next are a bunch of graphite pencils. The first is the Pitt Graphite Matte from Faber-Castell. These are matte pencils as opposed to shiny pencils. I'll show you that by swatching in just a moment. I have them in HB and 2B. I've just repurchased these because they are somewhere around their teeny tiny nubs now. But the 14B is my favorite and I use these for drawing as well. This pencil goes down nice and dark, but when you tilt it, there's no shine, as opposed to the next pencil, which is the Staedtler Mars Lumograph. And if I sketch down with this, and I hold it up for you, can you see the shine on this? They're both black pencils, but this is much blacker, much darker, and it doesn't have that shine that pencils tend to have, that graphite pencils tend to have. I don't know how they achieve this, but it's fantastic. So I have now shifted from almost all my graphite pencils to the Pitt Graphite Matte. Another graphite pencil that I really love to use, Kohinoor Progresso. It is entirely graphite, so you can do things like use it on its side and get really nice textures. Again, this is shiny, so I have stopped using it in favor of the matte pencil. Editing Arati here. I completely forgot the Blackwing matte pencil. I completely skipped over it while I was talking, but this is one of my favorite pencils and I also have it in the Blackwing Pearl. This is, I can't remember whether it's lighter or softer, but I prefer the Blackwing matte. Again, like I said, I prefer matte things rather than shiny. It is an expensive pencil, but it is available open stock at places like Cass Art, and it does work on top of most surfaces. So for example, if I work on top of my paper here, you can see that it works really well, but it does have that shine again that the matte pencil does not. So a good pencil, and back to the video. I will link all of these supplies down in the description box below. So if you do want to go and check them out, please feel free to do so. There are affiliate links which may give me a small commission at no extra cost to you and helps me continue to make free videos for you. The next three pencils I want to share are mechanical pencils. These are 0.7 mils and 0.5 mils. The 0.5 is not one of my favorites. This is a Pentel one, and this has a blue refill in it. It's really pale and thin, so I haven't been using it a lot. But my absolute favorites are the 0.7. These are my, what I guess you would call everyday carry. So the Staedtler Mars Micro 0.7 and the Faber-Castell Grip 1347 both in 0.7 mils. They're really great. Nice thick line, like so. And I find them really useful for drawing on the go when I don't have to carry a sharpener with me. All of these pencils have refills, which I keep in this little drawer. They are the Staedtler Mars Micro Carbon and the Faber-Castell. This is a 0.35, but I have the 0.7 somewhere here. Yeah, 0.7B in Faber-Castell. So all of these just live in this little drawer, which says refills, and I refill them as needed. They do last quite a long time though. The final mechanical pencil I have is this 1.3 millimeter one that I got from Choosing Keeping. It's by Kohinoor. It's the 1513. This is another one that I really love. This does have that graphite shine here, but it's a really nice thick line, especially if you compare it to the 0.7. You can get loads of shading out of this as opposed to those which are more for fine detail. I really enjoy this, and it's got a rubberized kind of feel to it, which feels really nice in the hand. I did have to get used to the thickness a little bit, but it's really great. It holds really well. Next up are two graphite pencils that are both water soluble. One is the Stabilo Aquarellable, and the second is the Faber-Castell Graphite Aquarelle. I don't use these very often, so that's why they are almost full length. I think I bought them as an experiment and then never really ended up using them. Let me just scribble them and then we'll add some water and see what that does. Obviously, one of them is HB and one of them is 2B, which is why one is lighter and one is slightly darker. But if you take water and scribble at them, this is what happens. So it's really nice, especially if you dip the pencil in water and then scribble. It gives you a very interesting line. It works kind of like Inktense, except it is graphite. You can put your finger on there and then dab with that as well. So that can give you a different texture. It's a different way of mark making as well. I very rarely use these, especially since I've got some of these other pencils. By the way, I am swatching in the white paper Royal Talens sketchbook. I forgot to mention that earlier. The next tranche of pencils here is what I would call glass marker pencils, or pencils that are generally meant for things other than drawing. The Stabilo Carbothello, yes, it is generally meant for drawing, and I believe there are other colors in this as well. It's more like a pastel pencil than anything. I've popped a bit of acrylic gouache over here so that I can show you the white pencil. This is the Stabilo Carbothello, and it works really well on top of paint. It is a pastel pencil, so when you rub at it, it does sort of blend in and come off on your hand, which is why I only have the one, and I never ended up buying any more because I don't like supplies that wipe off like that. Now, the first of the China graphs is the West Design China graph. I think I picked this up from a DIY store, maybe Wix or something like that. And this also works really well on top of dark colors. Here is the Sharpie Peel Off China marker. Works really well on top of dark colors. And this is one of my most opaque whites. This does not rub off. It's meant for multiple surfaces like glass and metal and things like that. And the final China marker I have, which is my favorite brand, this is Sanford. I think, again, this is more for a DIY. This is a crimson red. Let's do that over here. And again, it doesn't really rub off that much. It does a little bit, but not so much that it makes much difference. But my favorite one of these is this black pencil because it gives you a real vintagey feel. Oops, that's the thread that you use to open it up. It gives you a really vintagey feel, particularly when you put color on top of this. So some of the things that I've made using this pencil are things like this tree and this dog. It gives you a very vintage feel, and then when you use color on top of it, it looks like the traditional two-color printing that used to be done in children's books of old. One of my favorites for many, many reasons. The next glass marker type pencil is Apsara. This is an Indian brand from the DIY store near my dad's house. And this comes in multiple colors. I use them quite a lot, so you can see some of them are quite small now. They come in this kind of crimson-y color. It's called lilac, but it isn't really. Yellow, blue, black, red, white, and I think there's a purple over here. Yeah, this kind of purple color, violet. I tend to use the black most, and it is quite similar to the Chinagraph marker. And it also works on multiple surfaces. So that's the color for that. Next is the Cretacolor oil pencil. This is color Sanguine. So if you look at that, it's an oil pencil. So again, it rubs off very, very little. It's pretty good, and it works on multiple surfaces. This one does come in a set as well. This is the oil pencil pocket set. It comes with black in 2 different softnesses. These are very smudgeable. This one is the white chalk. Here is the dark sepia number 2, which is light, and then the Sanguine. So this is a great set to get if you are going out sketching and want to work in monochrome. So we've come to the end of my pencils that I use for general stuff, as well as with other materials. The next set of pencils are water-soluble pencils. Now, I'm not going to include these in my color pencils because they are water-soluble and I tend to use them by themselves. I don't use them in combination with my regular color pencils very often. I do, there are exceptions, but in general, I don't use them with those color pencils. The first one is the Cretacolor Monolith, Aqua Monolith, which is a water-soluble pencil. It's kind of like the karst pencils that are doing the rounds these days. I only have the black. It's pretty dark. And like the other water-soluble pencils, obviously, water-soluble again. This does also work well on top of wet mediums. So when you work on dry, you get a really thin line like this. But when you go into wet, dry on wet, you get really thick, interesting marks that you can use in your work. Again, also works really well on top of paint. But I don't like it so much because it is a water-soluble medium and I like to work in layers, so the water-soluble mediums just disappear. The next water-soluble one is the Stabilo Aquarellable. This also works on paper, glass, plastic, and metal, but it is water-soluble. I also have just one white from Caran d'Ache aquarelle pencils. And I have a whole bunch of these Albrecht Dürer Faber-Castell pencils. They came in a set from Cass Art, and to be frank, I haven't really used them all that much because I haven't been doing very much watercolor work. I do recommend them though. The color load is excellent and they do dissolve really, really well. In fact, I've got this as a gift for multiple friends and some children as well because they're really chunky and nice to hold. Next is Caran d'Ache Supracolor. These are water-soluble watercolor pencils. And I've done a full video review of these if you go back to my channel, and I'll link it for you down in the description box below. I have a full set of these. I bought the 40 set. In the review, I show you the entire collection that I made with just these. Again, I don't count these in my coloring pencils because I only ever use them by themselves because I like to work in layers. Water-soluble materials don't work for me as well when I'm working over them because they just disappear. They dissolve, they melt. And then I also have a full set of the Derwent Graphitint pencils. I haven't experimented with them as much as I would like, but this is on my to-do list of things to get onto. I will do a full video once I've done that. Finally, there is the Derwent Inktense. These are one of the colors that I use with my color pencils. I have a bunch of them, definitely not all of the colors, but many of them. And I tend to use these with color pencils because once they are dry, they're meant to be color fast. Although I don't always find them so, but they are more so than the watercolors, which really dissolve when you work in layers. Next, I have one Stabilo Woody. I just bought this because I wanted to see what all the hype was about. And it's really difficult to sharpen unless you have the specific sharpener or use a knife. I do like it, and I'm glad that I bought the white because it works well on top of dark colors. And I would probably only use it for this purpose. It's chunky, it's hard to sharpen, and it fills a lot of space when you're carrying it around. So very rarely use that. Would I actually recommend? I don't know. This is a pencil that I got from Choosing Keeping again. It's a Kohinoor and it is a refillable mechanical pencil. But the refill that it has in it is a magic pencil. Once you draw with it, it changes color as it goes. And it's pretty random because you can see the nib is kind of patterned with all the different colors. Now, I didn't need any more color pencils, but last week, Sarah Dyer, lovely Sarah, shared on her Patreon this lovely set of magic pencils. This is the lid, and I will link them for you down below. And there are 24 colors in this. They're not available individually. And the 12 set didn't have some of the colors that I really wanted, like this one, which is one of my absolute favorites, kind of like a bluey purple color. So that's what that color gets you. Again, it's got multiple, I think it's got 3 different colors in the lead itself. And these ones are fully lead, so they don't have any wood. They're woodless pencils. So I got these last week. I don't know about color fastness, but I have been using them in my sketchbook, and I'll do a full review of them. So there's those. Did I need more pencils? No, I didn't, but I got influenced and I bought them anyway. Now, let's come to the color pencils that I actually use on an everyday basis and that I really love and would buy again 100%. First up is the Uniposca pencils. As I said, I have a full set of these and I did review them, so I will link that for you down in the description box below so you can go have a look at the whole lot. I use them a lot. Some of my favorite colors obviously have gotten shorter and shorter, but these do last quite a long time. They don't sharpen down quite as fast as the luminance does. So I'm quite pleased about that. Obviously, my favorite colors are teeny tiny. The nice thing about these colors is they work really well on top of all surfaces. Again, they are meant to be used on top of metal, plastic, wood, and so on. So they work well on top of paint and in multiple layers as well, and they don't smudge. So even when you use them like that, they really don't smudge at all. So I love to use these in my sketchbook. I don't know about the color fastness of these, about the light fastness, so I tend not to use them in final artwork, but I love them and I use them on a regular basis. Highly recommend. They do now come in smaller sets, I think. Last year when I went to Berlin on holiday, that video is also somewhere on my channel, I found Prismacolor open stock at Peter's Art and I bought some. This color, Black Grape, is one of my favorites. I am using it sparingly because I think I'd have to go to eBay to get these open stock in the UK. But it is a lovely color. Look at that. Absolutely beautiful. And it works really well. They're really nice and soft. I don't know that I would say I like them more than the luminance, but I think they're for a different purpose. They also do work well on top of paint. But let me take one of the others. Pretty good. Now, as I said, I got these in Berlin, so I got a bunch to use. I will link that video down below for you so that you can see the exact colors that I got. I purchased the Holbein Artist Colored Pencils just to try, so I only got a few colors. I got Olive Drab, Ash Rose, White, I always buy a white, and Sepia, and this one, Burgundy, just to try. So the white does work pretty well in comparison to most of the other whites. It's quite good on top of paint, which is mostly how I use these pencils. And all of these pencils work nicely, but I don't know if I would buy any more of them. I feel like my other pencils do just as good a job as these do. And these are very similar to the Prismacolor pencils. They're a little bit thicker in terms of the barrel itself. I've only really used this one a lot, Sepia, because it's a really lovely brown. But I always tend to use my luminance more because of the texture of it. It's just a little bit different, you know? Now, the first professional pencil I ever bought was the Faber-Castell Polychromos. I still love these, but I have gone for my luminance pencils over these most of the time. However, where these ones stand out is that they are hard pencil. So when I want a hard line and I want my point to stay longer, that's when I use the Polychromos pencils. They keep a sharp point much better than the luminance does. The luminance is much softer. I also prefer them when I'm doing line work on top of a darker color. Now, you'll have to do your own research about which one is oil-based and which one is wax-based. I use them all interchangeably, and it doesn't really matter to me so much as long as they don't smudge. So these ones also don't smudge, and that's what I prefer in a pencil. Again, I have quite a few of these. I've never swatched them, so if you would like me to do that in a separate video, please let me know. I will happily do that for you. Next is the Caran d'Ache Pablo pencils. I didn't find a huge difference between these and my Derwent or my Caran d'Ache Luminance pencils. I do have a fair few of them. I bought colors that I didn't have at the time in other pencils. Again, nice pencils, but would I rebuy given that I have so many pencils? Maybe not. Again, slightly harder, very similar to the Polychromos pencils. I'd probably choose the Polychromos over the Pablo pencils though. Great pencils, but I have a preference for the Polychromos over the Pablo. Now we're coming to my absolute favorite pencils, which I've left to the end. Luminance pencils, Caran d'Ache Luminance, pricey pencils, excellent light fastness, 72 plus. I think they released a few more colors in the range. I got the 72 set at an absolute bargain. If you watch one of my hauls from about 2 or 3 years ago, I scored an entire 72 set secondhand on Vinted for like half price or something like that, and I couldn't resist. So I got them. And they have served me really well over the years. I mean, I have so many of them. There's this one and this little pot here. Don't even have space to put them all. And this little pot of like nub pencils. So yeah, very well used. Loads of colors, excellent color range. Again, I've never swatched these. So if you would like me to do that, again, just let me know. I will happily do that for you. But these are my preferred pencils. They are beautifully soft. They have a lovely texture about them. And they have this nice feel, you know, like people say mouth feel for food. It's a hand feel for these pencils. They create this really satisfying pencil sound. And they're super soft. They blend really well. They work really well on top of paint, which is mostly how I use them, like so. This is on top of gouache paint, acrylic gouache paint. And here's a blue. And since this is mostly how I use pencils, I really love these pencils. As you can see from my entire collection and the amount that I use them, these are my absolute 100% go-to pencils to use. Without hesitation, I would use them in final artwork because they're light fast. Now, if you're a beginner or an amateur, you don't necessarily need these pencils, but if you're an artist selling original artwork, I recommend. Next is my Derwent Lightfast pencils. I don't have too many of these, but I would definitely like to get a few more once I finish the ones that I have. So my favorite color is Forest, and I have mostly beiges and taupes and like browns and one yellow. But Forest is fast becoming my favorite color, along with the Phthalocyanine green and the dark sap green from Luminance. These three, definitely. This is a really dark color. It's almost like browny, blacky green. It's beautiful. It's so gorgeous. And again, the feel of this pencil is amazing. I think the Luminance and the Derwent Lightfast are some of my favorite pencils, I would say. In the top 4, certainly, but probably the top 2. Again, this also works really well on top of paint. And in fact, in my Peachtober drawings, I've used mostly Derwent Lightfast and Derwent drawing pencils over the top of gouache paint here. This is regular gouache, not acrylic gouache. So a lot of this, for example, is that Forest pencil over the top of paint. Then there's Derwent Chromaflow. These are much thinner pencils, a thinner profile of pencil than any of the other pencils that I own, but I do love them. I think there's one little one in here. So this is my favorite color, Deep Sea. I do have a backup pencil in that pack, and these are lovely. I really like how they draw. Again, great texture. I will say that they don't work quite as well on top of paint as the Lightfast and the Luminance do. But nonetheless, I still love these pencils. I don't have that many colors. I would not be opposed to buying more. I've got loads of pencils already, so do I really need any more? Maybe not. And finally, we come to the source of all the angst over the last few weeks anyway, of should I, shouldn't I, should I, shouldn't I? The Derwent drawing pencils. So here's how they work. They're quite soft, and they do wear down, like when you sharpen them, they wear down quite a bit faster than some of the other pencils I have, but they are really good for working on top of paint, and they go over other pencils fairly well. Look at that. Pretty good. Look how well it's going over that as well. So I have a fair few in these, but they're all from the original set of, I think it was 24. So I don't have any of the new colors, obviously, which is why I've been looking at them. But the Derwent White, the Chinese white, is one of the best whites for working on top of paint. It's really good. It's really buildable. It's a great pencil. I also have Solway Blue. Is like a gray color. And the other one I really love is Crack Green. And the one I've been using most often lately is this brown ochre. It's a lovely, lovely color. Look at that. Look how well it works on top of paint. Really, really lovely. Highly recommend. I definitely will be getting some more Derwent drawing pencils, but these are all of the pencil brands that I use and love, and I will continue to buy most of them. Now, my top favorites, to remind you, are for an artist who's working in light fast mediums only: Derwent Drawing, Derwent Light Fast, Luminance by Caran d'Ache, and Polychromos by Faber-Castell. All of these are legacy brands. They have proper light fast testing methods. They have reliable results, and loads of people use their pencils and are very satisfied with them, as am I. Now, all of these pencils are great. You just have to choose the ones that work for you, and these four are the ones that I would buy and rebuy and buy again. I hope that you found that little tour of all of my pencils handy, and obviously leave in the comments which is your favorite pencil, and a little pencil emoji if you watched all the way to the end. If you did, thank you so very much. I really, really appreciate you. Also, my mugs are available in my shop, and I will tag them in this video for you. This one didn't fit in one mug. I have so many pencils. Oopsies.